Hello lads and lasses. Disclaimer up front, this video is not going to be with a happy ending. You're going to witness Adrian of the past eagerly awaiting what seems like a routine job, then discovering it's not and going through the 5 stages of grief, all the while fighting a cold. Please enjoy if you're a sadomasochist. Difficult one. How do I introduce this video? For months now, I've been bragging about, I got nothing to do on the car anymore and I'm getting bored and I have to think about artificial projects to keep me doing something on the car and whatnot. And well, all this time I had a major job ahead of me with kind of even knowing it. Ever since I had the car, I had noticed an essential amount of blow-by, accompanied by a slight miss when running the car under load at low RPM, and topped off with the oil getting dirty comparatively quickly when, checking it against other Model A owners. Last weekend then, I finally got the actual confirmation of what I was afraid might be the case. I have about half compression on cylinder 1 and cylinder 2. The fresh compression value for a Model A would be 4.5 bar, and cylinder 1 is doing 2 bars, and cylinder 2 is doing 3 bars, cylinder 3 and 4 are at 4 bars, so those two are okay, but the first two, it's just not enough. So we poured oil into the cylinder opening and that immediately put it back to 4.5 bars of compression. So that tells me it's not the valves, but it's the rings which are tired. And to do either of both, you have to get the head off and remove the oil pan, pull the cylinders, get new rings installed and hope that the bore is intact. Because if it isn't, then the whole engine has to come out and the cylinders have to get relined. Now, I'm still high on hopes here. I haven't done the job yet, but it's kind of a routine job of the 1930s, is get the head off, decarbonize everything, deglaze the cylinder walls, new rings, grind in the valves, and, see if the bearings are still tight. And it can actually be done in the garage without any too special tools. So I still drive the car very, very regularly. I'm dependent on it. So my ideal thought is pull the head off one day, see what kind of pistons are inside. There are several different sizes of being bored out. And order a set of rings, and then the next weekend throw it all back together again and have it running within a week. Now, all the experience I have about rebuilding or taking apart engines is entirely theoretical. I've read through the Bible and, all the interesting aspects of it. I've watched a shit ton of YouTube tutorials, so by the laws of Gen Z, I am now a full-on engine mechanic. And what makes me a little optimistic is that the entire engine assembly procedure is like, you do this, you do that, you check that that's the case, and then you do the next one, and so on and so forth. Put the rings on, all no biggie, just check this and that and the other, here's a dimension. And then it comes to installing pan gaskets, and it says, take extreme care when installing the following pan gaskets. Correct installation of the pan gasket is essential to prevent oil pan leaks. And since I have had my oil pan off and put it back on a number of times, and it's always been leak-proof, I think I'm ready to, tackle the whole pull a piston and cylinder head and whatnot. It can't be that hard if I already managed to install an oil pan.
Black cats creep across my path until I'm almost mad. I must have roused the devil's wrath, 'cause all my luck is bad. I make a date for golf, and you can bet your life it rains. I try to give a party, but the guy upstairs complains. Everything happens to me.
I'll never see that again.
I never miss a thing. I've had the measles and the
You
mumps,
stubborn little devil.
and every time I play an ace, my partner always trumps. I guess I'm just a fool who never looks before he jumps. Everything happens to me. At first my heart thought you could break this jinx for me, that love would turn the trick to end despair.
I got it. Hang on. Nein, Scheiße! Komm schon, wo ist denn das Scheißproblem? There we go. Ah, son of a bitch. Aua. Mein Schädel. Diddly-dee-dee-dee. Okay, the head is off. I hope I'm not shaking too much. It was quite a job. Now, I've been taking a peek down in here. The pistons are, well, relatively clean. You can see that she's been burning some oil, especially around the perimeter, but it's not terrible. Been looking at the cylinder walls. The worst I could find is right at the side here. You can see the score marks. You can see a rest line there. She's probably been sitting for a couple decades. But other than that, I think we should be able to get that scoring out with the flex hone. And, you know, a new set of rings ought to do the job here. Taking a peek into the cylinder head, you can see that cylinder 1 has definitely been burning oil, which also was the weakest one of the lot, compression wise. Cylinder 2, 3 and 4 look pretty much alright. Cylinder 4 obviously running the hottest, so being the cleanest. Pretty good, remarkably rust free in here. I would have expected a lot worse. Then again, I'm not having any issues with cooling, so you know, to be expected. Valves look alright. Pretty clean, no signs of burning or anything. This one looks a little suspicious. I don't know what that's all about. Good place to you know, grind them in while we're here. So I'm going to take off the side cover here as well, and you know, give them a good grinding, lapping. Probably something for the tech aficionados here, seeing how the engine is moving and the pistons are doing their job. You know, the mind is boggling that these heavy lumps of aluminium are doing that thousands of times per minute, and that's what propels you forward. But it actually works. Unbelievable, isn't it? Anyway, enough playing. We got some work to do. You know what? This one's for you ASMR folks.
40 over.
All the waffling I did about how clean it is in here, well, it's not. There's quite an amount of debris in here, so I'll have to clean that out. Especially on account of this being cylinder 4, naturally running the hottest, because all the exhaust gases are passing by this one. I'm underneath the engine now. I managed to get the cotter pins out for this one. And by the state of them, you can about imagine that it took me about as much effort as taking the head off. And now I'm going to loosen those two nuts up and then pound the piston right on through the top, hopefully with no ring ridge whatsoever. Oh yeah, those are tight.
C'est une chanson qui nous ressemble. Toi tu m'aimais et je t'aimais. Nous vivions tous les deux ensemble. Toi qui m'aimais, moi qui t'aimais. Mais la vie sépare ceux qui s'aiment tout doucement, sans faire de bruit. Et la mer efface sur le sable les pas des amants désunis. Mais la vie sépare ceux qui s'aiment tout doucement, sans faire de bruit. Et la mer efface sur le sable les pas des amants désunis.
Right, so what have we got? First of all, pardon my voice, I seem to have caught a cold. On first glance, you can see that these pistons, yes, they have been going up and down, but it's nothing that could be felt with the fingernail. You can see that the combustion must have, passed by the rings a little and colored the pistons dark. This here may be the reason for the scoring in cylinder 1, because it's exactly in that spot. There's also a very interesting hodgepodge going on here. You can see that number 2 has been paired with number 3 on here, and then there is 4 dots marked into here, and all sorts of sweet and wonderful things, like inconsistent types of nuts on each one of those. All little things compared to what I found next. You can see this one here had a breakout, not nice, but well, it would probably work. This one looks alright, pretty much. This one, absolutely not. It's completely shot. You can see these guys here just fell out upon inspection, and this is a typical casting error. Probably temperature wasn't held in right, and you can see the shrinking lines of the material around here. It's of course the most hardly abused point of the entire bearing, is where the entire thrust of the explosion rests on. And taking a look in here, you should be able to see that. So that's loose in here too. not something I would have liked to see, to be honest, because, you know, one of these may be shot, yes, not nice, but that's just the way it is. Now that's 2 out of 4. This one not too good either. You can also see that these have a 45-degree chamfer on here. This one has a radius, and this one happens to be the only one that's, you know, without any major flaw, although there is this ding right here. So, well, looks like 4 new rod bearings for this one. When taking the rods apart, that bears the question of, you know, should I get new pistons if I go the route? And if I get new pistons, should the cylinders be bored out to get rid of that ridge in there? And so on and so forth. And all of a sudden, we're not that far away from a complete engine rebuild. I think I'm going to make that depend on the condition of the crankshaft main bearings, because I haven't looked into them yet. But if they are busted too, then, you know, might as well get the entire engine out and get the bearings remachined or re-poured and remachined. And yeah.
Темная ночь, только пули свистят по степи, только ветер гудит в проводах, тускло звезды мерцают. В темную ночь ты, любимая, знаю, не спишь, и у детской кроватки тайком ты слезу утираешь. Как я люблю глубину твоих ласковых глаз, как я хочу к ним прижаться теперь губами. Темная ночь разделяет, любимая, нас, и тревожная черная степь пролегла между нами.
Well, that's it.
Верю в тебя, дорогую подругу мою. Эта вера от пули меня темной ночью хранила.
That's the front main bearing.
Я спокоен, смертельном пою.
And the center main is the one that's supposed to be under the most stress.
Чтоб со мной не случилось.
There's even pieces still stuck to the crank.
С ней встречались не раз мы в степи.
Well, crap.
Quitting time! Quitting time!
So yeah, that's literally where I'm standing at the moment. Or sitting. I am going to have to do quite a lot of, you know, telephone calls and emails back and forth to see which route I'm going to go. What would be ideal, in my opinion, would be to be able to recycle the block as long as the camshaft bearings are still fine and, you know, everything's up to snuff, because I know that it is straight, I didn't have any head gasket issues, I know that it is crack free, and I know that it has worked for me, so that would be a great start point. Nobody in Europe seems to be able to do Babbitt bearings anymore, and if so, they don't have a reputation, so it would be quite a gamble. Then again, I'm not really sure if the Babbitt has failed due to, you know, the guy before not knowing what he was doing. In my opinion, it looks like a metal failure or material failure, because it just crumbled and cracked into a million pieces, which seems to me like they either used the wrong stuff or they didn't get their temperatures right, or they recycled old Babbitt material, which then became brittle. Bearings that fail due to, overuse or high speeds or lack of fluid, lack of lubrication, look quite different. Then again, I know little to none about Babbitt bearings or engine bearings whatsoever, so feel free to correct me on that one. What I'm trying to say is that the engine is most likely going to be converted to insert bearings. Now, I've been advocating keeping everything stock and running it the way it was, and, it's fine, and there is many prejudices about it, and, well, surely, but I'm not going to lay 6 to 7 grand on the table to get everything poured and then find out that it's been a poor job, pardon the pun. I want to be rather safe on this. Insert bearings are going to be quite a step up from parts interchangeability. I'm going to be able to swap them out for different sizes or new ones should the old ones wear out. So yeah, I mean, that's my best bet on doing it locally, and that's probably what I'm going to be doing. I'm also thinking about getting a counterbalanced crank in there, just because I have never been so satisfied with the ambient noise that the engine makes, with all the rattling and shaking and humming and roaring. I've been quite spoiled by the Chevy 6-cylinder of the time, which is basically unhearable. So, I'm thinking about that. Then again, it would be quite the investment. It would need to be shipped over here from the US. And at that point, I don't even know if it might not be cheaper altogether to get a fully rebuilt small block without a cylinder head and all the parts around it, shipped over here from a US engine rebuilder. I'll see. I'll have to do the calculations. If you have any suggestions or, experience, especially if you're in Germany and had your engine rebuilt, I have heard so many opinions about rebuilders in the Netherlands and in Hungary, and it's basically you ask two people and you get two different opinions, so yeah, it's going to be a gamble. Nonetheless, I will still get the engine out of my car, obviously, and do a thorough check, because if it's not usable, then, what are we talking about here? So I'm going to check that, and if it's okay, then I'm going to proceed with the next steps, getting an engine builder involved and so on, because I do not have the machinery nor the experience to just slap the entire block onto, say, my lathe or my shaper and get it line bored or so on. I'm not going to pour Babbitt bearings myself, let me tell you that in advance, and yeah, that's it for now. I've still got a bunch of Model A videos on hold. I kind of snuck this one in between rhythms because it's kind of more important right now. But just let me tell you that this is not the end for the car, because, right in the beginning when I barely had the car for a month or two, I said this right here. And hopefully the troubles slowly start to develop, small things like the horn won't work or a wheel bearing gets shot, something like that, and not just a catastrophic engine failure right off the bat, so that I can slowly get used to wrenching on cars. And I'm still living up to that exact same statement because, I didn't buy the car to have the least amount of effort with this. 50% of my purchasing decision was to have stuff to do on it, because, that's just how my mind goes. I like to wrench on stuff, and it's not a drawback for me if I have to do maintenance or repairs. Sure, an engine rebuild was not on my agenda, for at least another 10 years maybe, but then again, it's what I signed up for. It's an old car, it's going to need some tender love and care. Until then, again, pardon my voice, but see you next time. Bye bye.
Ничего не случится.